Niall, I thought it would be really nice for our viewers to hear a little bit about yourself and how you became interested in art. And then a little bit like, I'd love for people to hear how you got interested in working in public space.
Yeah. So, hi everyone. My name's Nile Livingston. I am quarantined in West Philadelphia. My family goes back 3 generations in Philadelphia. My grandfather was an architect, so I grew up just around rolls of drafting paper and art supplies, uh, and just an encouraging and creative family. So I got my start in art at a really young age. Growing up, my dad used to take my sister and I to the art museum. So even looking at art was really important. I went to the Creative and Performing Arts High School, Kappa, on Broad Street. And while I was in high school, I remember this girl would come to school covered in colorful paint every day. So I asked her, "What do you do?" And she said, "Oh, I'm in mural arts." So I remember one day after school, I followed her to the mural arts program, and I asked if I can join. And at the time, I think only students who needed community service hours were allowed to join. So I came back and I brought my portfolio and my mother with me and showed them like I really would love to join even though I don't meet the full qualifications. So they finally let me into the program. And that's where I gained one of my first mentors, Eric Oakday, who also
Oh,
graduated from Kappa
yeah.
a couple years before me. So I learned a lot just in high school and being in the mural arts program. I went off to Kutztown University for college, where I studied large-scale metal fabrication. And when I graduated, I had a hard time finding a creative job using those skills. So I used what I learned in the mural arts program. I put together a volunteer mural project in North Philadelphia at the Cecil B. Moore Recreation Center. And that was a lot of, I partnered with one of my childhood friends, and that was a lot of experimenting. For example, I remember just painting on the wall outside. Graffiti artists would come and spray paint over it. So we really had to involve the kids in the playground and then the neighborhood and the whole community in the process of painting. We painted indoors on parachute cloth. I called on a lot of my mentors that I had learned from over the years, the mural arts program, to also offer us advice. And through that volunteer mural project, it just, through word of mouth, it led to more opportunities. And that's how I began forming a career around making art.
Oh,
So I'm
that's
really
wonderful.
grateful.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a nice, that's so nice to hear. And Niall, you know what I find really interesting um, about you is you're really a multitasker. You're a designer, you're a painter, you're a muralist, you're like an organizer. I mean, you straddle so many different worlds. And what's that like? Do you have a favorite? And how does one part of your practice influence and inspire another?
Yeah, I see two sides. I feel like one side I mostly spend my time painting, and the other side is mostly graphic design. Uh, I think it started because in school they wouldn't let me just jump right into sculpture. I had to take a lot of preliminary courses. Uh,
Hmm.
and I found that computer graphics was really great with mocking things up that I wanted to bring to life. Um, so I try to incorporate, yes, sculpture, painting, computer graphics, everything that I've learned into making something. I also think that it helped because when I got called on after I graduated from school to help with other mural projects, I think a lot of the traditional artists would just paint, like Paris Stencil would just paint his drafts on a canvas, and then when the community would ask for revisions, it would be so complex just to have to repaint that over. So I remember working with him, and I was like, we can scan this on the computer and move things around way faster than you repainting it, and even gridding murals. So I try to use as many tools as possible when creating art to bring it to life.
That's great. I actually remember Paris saying that, but it was sort of like magic to learn these new tips and tricks. That it was like,
Yeah,
oh, I don't have to repaint it all. Um,
yeah.
that's great. And so, and I think that it's also interesting. You did a wonderful project with Leadership Philadelphia where you were able to take really important messages. Could you talk about that project? Because that was, to me, art is advocacy and education.
Yeah, with Leadership Philadelphia, we worked on a project called Move Them Closer, and it's a series of snapshots from around Philadelphia. And it's more graphic design with that project. I found text, or I photoshopped text into the photographs to try to inspire more empathy and compassion. So each panel asks a question to try to inspire more dialogue. For example, one question is, what do you love about your best friend? And we use the love that's at Center City Hall, that sculpture, as the middle word, love, and then the question forms around it. And they've been installed all around the city, the farmers market, the airport. Yeah.
I just think it's so interesting when, because I think that people tend to think of art as one thing, right? And yet we're able to see it in so many different roles and doing so many different things. Like that art can be beautiful, uplifting, inspiring, and also useful, right? So
Right.
I love the fact that this was an initiative of Leadership Philadelphia about bridging the gaps and divides between us. And then when you put it, you had it come to life in different unexpected parts of the city, was really beautiful. Whenever I would encounter one, I was
Yeah, I think
very moved.
a lot of times, sorry to interrupt.
Oh no,
It,
please.
it's about, I think it's about really listening carefully to what the people who reach out to artists need, and then trying to communicate that in a visual way. So that was a really fun project for me.
Oh, that's wonderful. And like speaking of projects like that, I mean, the world is in turmoil now. It's so distressing. And in Mirror Lights, we've been asking ourselves, how do we be responsive to the crisis? What can we do? We can't stand still. We have to move forward. So I'd love to hear from you. What can art do now? What role does it have? And is it important? And why does it matter?
Yeah, I think more than anything right now, it's important for artists to step forward. I used to have this professor, and she would have a lot of mottos. Her name was Phoebe Adams, the sculpture professor. And one of her mottos was, frustration is the artist's best friend. And for me, my understanding of that is the best time to make art is when you're feeling frustrated and things are difficult, because that means that basically you have to, that's the time to try to inspire positive change in the world and put uh, messages out there that uplift people. So when things are normal, yes, you can make art and you can experiment. But I think when it's hard to make art, that's the time where you really need to push through it.
Definitely. So I got an inquiry the other day from a reporter who was thinking about the 1930s when the WPA was formed and the federal government supported so many wonderful artists and practitioners, and parks were built and plays were written and books were written, and many, many artists were given a start who went on to become quite well known.
Mhm.
And what recommendation would you give to policymakers or government officials now about something like that? Is it possible? How could we do it? What would you suggest? And then second part of that is, how can we start small scale here in Philly?
Well, I think for me, small scale, I see each one of my artworks as kind of a public diary entry. So I think making art is just about documenting the times that we live in now. Um, I really like what the things that I see the Mirror Arts program working on now, such as like not just having markers on the floor asking people to stand 6 feet apart, but uplifting messages on those markers. Working with Mirror Arts and the Broad Street Ministry on the hand washing station murals that's all around the city. So I don't think it's enough to just put things out there, but also to have visuals that are communicating something to people that can hopefully, I think the thing that spreads the most are messages. So I think art is basically a visual communication. So it's really important, I think, for policymakers to try to invest more in arts and creative people, because right now we're going to have to change a little bit. Like I don't think we can ever just go back to normal. I think we're going to have to figure out creative ways to adjust the system that we live in now. And I think honestly, that's where artists come in.
That artists can help beautify, inspire, uplift. But I like how you're saying that there's one thing, it's about beauty, but then there's also about connecting with the viewers, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
the power of the messages and what can we say, how do we step up and make a difference. And
Yeah.
so I wanted to, for the people who are tuning in, that Nile was part of a project that we did with the Broad Street Ministry where they were able to raise funds for hand washing stations around the city. And I really credit my colleagues at Broad Street because they reached out to us and said, what about if we put a mural behind the hand washing station that would draw people in, that would also have a public health message? And could you describe the piece you worked on? I mean, it is beautiful.
Thank you. So the piece I worked on, it has this large figure in the upper right-hand corner, and it's a young girl with a mask on. And I also incorporated text into the mural, which basically just says, wash your hands and stay 6 feet away from each other. So I have a couple sitting on the sofa, and the sofa seats slide apart on both edges of the mural. Everyone's wearing a mask, and then in the center, I have this line drawing of hands washing themselves.
It's so evocative. I remember when you sent me the design, it was just like, oh, that's so beautiful. And I want to say this because I haven't said this, that the work that we did with the Broad Street Ministry and your image, it was very helpful in getting us to think how we could be responsive to the crisis and use art with decals and posters and WePace and this outpouring you see now that's going on. And do you want to talk a little bit about the virtual mural that you're working on? That's another interesting project.
Yeah, so right now I'm working on a virtual mural with the arts program. We were trying to think of a way to connect to more people, and the internet honestly is the best way. And so we want people to participate and send in images of what home looks like to them right now, images that I see a lot of people posting artwork in their window when I drive for grocery runs. So photos of their artwork that they want the world to see. And we're going to put together a collage. So it's going to be one main image. But when you zoom in, you'll be able to see each individual image from people who have submitted their own work.
I love the idea. And then we're gonna try to project it on a big wall in Center City. And then hopefully when this starts to subside, people, I know we can't gather really closely, but we can gather enough with space between us to celebrate that work of art. And Nile, I want to ask you, and how are you doing, and what are your coping mechanisms during a time like this?
Overall, I'm okay. I think for me, it's more so focusing on self-care and using this time that I have to try to have more compassion and rest when I need to rest. So when this first started, it went through a fluctuation of like I must do as much as possible to I must rest, and then what can I do, and then I must rest. So for example, when it first started, I was like trying to put together a newsletter or just working on artwork around the clock, and that just causes burnout. So now I think I'm just trying to, because I mean, our days have changed a little bit. I don't wake up as early as I would any other time. I think also just checking in with people, checking in with family, because I'm trying to grapple with the fact that I haven't seen my parents in person in a while. And it's my way of showing love by not going around the people that I care about, or anyone really. So for me, what this looks like is just focusing on making sure that I get enough sunlight in my day, that I'm eating well, maintaining a nice space. Also working on projects just for myself, art projects, doodles. Yeah, that's what my life is like now.
That's great. And we love the fact that you're involved with us with our public health initiative around the city. We're going to be doing, we hope, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that the city's interested in having mural arts respond to the boarded up buildings that we see around Philadelphia.
Yeah, that would be great. Yes.
Yeah, we want to respond. And what's interesting, even on our website, and I've gotten texts and emails from people I don't know just saying, can mural arts do something? So I like that. And my temptation all the time is, yes, definitely. We want art out there. Because also the other thing, Nile, that I'm thinking about is we want artists, we want to be able to put some money in artists' pockets too, because the artist ecosystem is fragile.
Yeah,
And we
I
want to be
definitely
there.
appreciate the support that Mirror Arts has given to artists throughout the city over the years. It's really made a difference and meant a lot.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's so nice to hear. And I just also, before I ask you my other question, your family's good though, because you have the most awesome family.
Yeah, I see family and friends in the comments right now. My family's all good. Everyone is healthy in quarantine. But yeah, everyone's good.
Good. I want to say hi to your dad. I met him when he was painting, helping you paint, and that was such a nice moment. I was like, oh. But your
Yeah,
family is like a famous West Philly family, and I'm hoping we can do something to celebrate that also.
that would
So
be
I haven't
great.
forgotten that idea. But do you have a favorite mural when you were young and you would look around Philly and see murals? Was there one that inspired you, that you sort of you kept with you? You thought about, like, yeah, talk, and then you also your relationship with the public art in the city.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite murals, I might be saying the title wrong, but it's something along the lines of He Wears the Mask. It's in West Philadelphia and
Yeah,
it's by Eric Oakday. I like it, I think, because it has three-dimensional elements to it. It's this boy, I think it's on the side of a church, and he has a mask in his hand, and the mask is
great.
popping out of the wall.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right. I
yeah.
we did that with it's part was part of our art education program where we work with kids at St. Gabriel's Hall um, and the Juvenile Justice Service Center. And Eric Oakday, I should say, is a great muralist artist and a wonderful teaching artist. And I think that he inspired a generation of people. But that is quite beautiful, and I loved how he used mosaic. And and now, sort of, anything that stands out sort of for you more sort of that has been done recently?
Um, Something recent that really stands out. I think just driving through the expressway. I don't know the artist's name, but it's along the Schuylkill Drive, and it's an abstract mural, and it's like streaks flowing and then geometric shapes.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's I think, is that on the AT&T building? Is that the one?
I think it's the AT&T building. Does it look over the river?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
I
Rebecca
probably.
Rutstein. Yes,
Yeah,
isn't that beautiful?
yeah,
That
it's
was
really
like our holy
gorgeous.
grail to do that building. Like a driving.
Yeah, and I just love the fact that like as you're driving, you still are able to see it, and I think in a way, like with this quarantine, I think things in my life have slowed down a little bit, and
Mhm.
also I think art just helps people slow down and observe more things around them, and that I think that's something that always catches my eye.
I agree. And somebody who just put in the comments, convergence, that's the name of the mural. Thank you.
Mm.
And I want to say that I was walking the other day and walked by a mural, and I was just, and it's a really old mural. It's so old, I would date myself because I worked on it with the former
Mm.
graffiti writers. And it was just so nice. It was a delightful experience to come upon just color, right? It's just
Mhm.
such, it's so uplifting. And so during this really bleak time, when we're grappling with ways that we can respond, is there anything that we're not doing that you think, well, this would be a really good idea that mural arts should be thinking of? Is there anything that's on your mind? And then talk about what could we do with these boarded up buildings around the city? Because I absolutely think artists have a role to play right now in many ways, but certainly with that.
That's a really good question. Honestly, I think that you guys have been really receptive and open to hearing proposals. I like the things that I see in the email threads that you are actively doing. Um, Let me think. Something that I think that Muir Arts could be doing right now. Well, definitely the boarded up buildings. I think like I still, when I go on my grocery runs, I still see homeless people outside
Mm-hmm.
asking for money, and I know it's hard because like I don't think anyone. I think it's hard because I don't think anyone want to risk uh, contaminating themselves, but you still want to
Right.
be able to help people.
Right.
So honestly, I think it's ridiculous that we have so many boarded up and abandoned buildings in the city. I would love for there to be more housing opportunities and resources for people.
Hmm.
In terms of art, I would have to think about it and get back to you.
Yeah. Well, I think that we'll definitely be reaching out. If the city
Yeah.
gives us the go ahead, you will be on the list of artists that we would want to grace our city with more of your beautiful images. Because I think, Niall, that it really, I want to go back to what you said, that it's really at a time like this when things are so bleak that art is important now more than ever, actually, right? And
Yeah.
it's just interesting. So it's interesting that sometimes it's just marginalized or it gets pushed to the side. And I get why, because people need to be, we need, we're dealing with people struggling without housing. Hunger is a critical issue. I mean, it's like the global economy has been upended, and it's a health crisis. I mean, it's terrifying, right? So there's
Yeah.
so many competing issues, but we want to make sure that we hold on to the notion that beauty matters and that art has power and it does make a difference in our lives. And I
Right.
think
Yeah.
evidence of this is you've done so many lovely things that just stir the heart.
Thank
And
you.
I loved how you said that you saw some of your work as a visual diary. I think
Yeah.
that's really important because it's like it talks to the viewer, your work, and there's a very deep connection. And so it leads me to my next question, which is, do you have a favorite project, a favorite work of art that you've created, and why is that?
Do I have a favorite project? I think my favorite artwork that I've created is this painting of Nina Simone. I'll have to post it soon.
Oh,
But
please, yes.
yeah, it's kind of like the walls behind me. Just it's like drips of paint, and through the drips of paint, I was able to see a figure. So I painted Nina Simone's likeness inside the drips. In terms of a mural arts project, that's my favorite. I feel like every new project that I work on, like that moment, that's my favorite one. And one of the most recent mural arts projects was the Malcolm Jenkins
Yeah.
STEAM mural project in Mantua area of the city. That was with Gabe Tabarino. Uh, I just think just being outside, despite the heat waves last summer, uh, and having the kids in the playground come up to you and people walk by and offer feedback, and just how large that mural is, because just working on the walls was really fun, and just working with the people on our team. So I think just the people made that mural really great for me.
And I want to say that you and Gabe did put your heart and soul into that. And it was a project that really grew too,
Yeah.
because there were so many different areas that were in need of beautification. And you really rose to the occasion and just were undaunted and did the ground and this and that. And I mean, that was a place that looked so bleak, and now it really sings.
Yeah.
And it's what we want for our kids. We want our kids to go to schools and have rec centers and community centers that are beautiful and inspiring. And we need to be undeterred and undaunted about doing just that. And I think that artists can help make that happen. Um,
Right.
and we're almost out of time. So is there anything else you'd like to add, or about the times, about art, about what drives you and inspires you?
Yeah, I want to talk about an upcoming project that I'm working on
Yes,
with
great.
Mural Arts, the Mural Arts program, Streets Department, Cohere. This is going up in Kensington. It's a mural that will celebrate the people in the neighborhood as well as everyone on the front lines, just to say thank you and offer gratitude for the work that they've been doing. So that's something to look out for.
Oh, that's great.
And
That's
yeah,
great. And we'll have to, and please, we're happy to support it. And shout out to Streets Department, Conrad. We love you.
yes.
Conrad's our guest next week. And thank you for doing that too. I think that it's really important that we honor the heroes of our day, and that
Hmm.
it's many people, right? It's not, we can't define a hero one way, that they're all over, and it shows us the resilience and grit and the beauty of the human spirit. So
Hmm.
thank you for sharing that with us. And
Thank you.
so Niall Livingston, it's a joy working with you. And
My
luckily,
pleasure.
let's hope mural art doesn't go anywhere, and that there's tons of work for many, many years to come for you and many artists, because you make our city so much better. We adore
Yeah.
you. And to everyone out there, no, mural arts is not standing still. We're working with the Department of Public Health, Broad Street Ministry. We're working in Kensington with Prevention Point. We have our virtual mural project going on. We're going to be doing a Heroes Initiative where we're going to be connecting artists with people who get nominated. More to come on that on our website. Niall, I hope you participate in that. And if you have an idea, reach out to us, because we love to be responsive to ideas and creativity. And we have an informal motto at Mural Arts, and that is that art ignites change. And actually, I say that to you not as a cliche or something that is contrived, but I say that to you as something that we feel is very real and very important, that we acknowledge the profound impact of art. And Nile Livingston, you are a walking example of that. So
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Yes, and we'll
Thanks for
talk
having
soon.
me, Jane.
Of
Talk to you
course, a
soon.
pleasure. Bye, everyone.